that's going to hit you where you live. Well, this morning, I'm going to finally try to speak on fruit. On fruit. What is fruit? Fruit is a product of plant growth. It's usually the edible or usable part of the plant. The plant does no good if it doesn't have fruit that you can use. Fruit is also the effect or consequence of an action or labor, which ties right into the biblical side of fruit. In Matthew 7:17 and 20, he talks about the fruit. I believe I got the right one. Okay. No, actually, I wrote the wrong verse down. Sometimes that happens.
Yes, it does.
But the one I was looking for was actually, I said 17. Sometimes it helps to know which verse you're looking for. It was actually supposed to be 7. I was like, man, as much as I went over that, I couldn't believe I'd done that. Okay, there we go. Even so, every good tree bringeth forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree bringeth forth evil fruit. A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. And every tree that bringeth not forth good fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire. Therefore, by their fruits ye shall know them. 7:17 through 20. Yeah, I messed up. I said 17:17, and it was supposed to be 7:17.
You said in Matthew?
Yes. Matthew 7:17 through 20.
Okay.
And it speaks about the good fruit bringing forth, or the good tree bringing forth good fruit.
Okay.
You know, that right there is enough of a verse to take up an entire week of teaching. How do we have bad fruit if we say we're a good tree? And if you back up one verse into 16, ye shall know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes of thorns or figs of thistles? If you could gather figs of thistles, I got a farm full of figs, I guess. But actually, I've been eradicating them because they don't bring forth good fruit. You know, the thing is we are recognized by the fruit in our life. And if you go into Galatians 5:22 and 23, it speaks about what is the good fruit, which we can go there real quick. I believe I might have enough time. Galatians 5, trying to make sure I don't do this again. Starting in 22, most of us know this. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Against such there is no law. Yesterday, Candace and I went to a funeral of a lady that's younger than we are. And what we kept hearing over and over and over is what she was known by was several things. Her intense love of people, and the fact that she was willing to fight for anybody that was hers. And that over and over, they opened the floor up for people to come up and speak. And everybody kept saying, people that had moved in to go to work at Walmart, where she worked, said we didn't know anybody until we met Jackie. And she made us feel at home. She loved us. They said you could just see it on her face when you met her. And that was what she was known for. Her little smile she always had, and the love she had for everybody. And that is what she was known as. The thing is are we plants that grow true to seed? There is some plants that don't grow true to seed. A lot of us have grown up in Christian homes or had Christian influences. And we see it, some of the people that have been mentioned, they come out of good homes, but they didn't grow true to seed. Do we represent the seed that was planted in us? Or do we bear wild fruit or poor fruit? And you know, there's many types of fruit. And the fruit, when it gets down to it, it is essential for healthy living. And a lot of fruits you'll find out help prevent diseases. Many aid in lowering blood pressure. And when I read that, I thought, is that what people say about the fruit in our life, that we help lower blood pressure?
That's good.
You know, it's kind of a little bit humorous.
Yeah, that's true.
But do we have a calming, steadying effect on other people? Or are we chaos?
Come on.
That is so good, Brother John.
To produce fruit, a plant must mature and be pollinated. You cannot get fruit out of nothing. It has to come from something. And you can't shortcut it. It's kind of like we were saying, a bad tree won't give good fruit. And if you're a good tree, you should give good fruit.
Yes.
And to produce good fruit, to produce fruit at all, it must mature and be pollinated. But to produce good fruit, it must be in the right environment and it must get the correct nutrition. You cannot plant a good tomato plant and then drown it in salt and expect it to produce anything.
Come on.
It has to get the correct
Yes.
nutrition.
Yes.
You cannot be a good Christian and go live at the bar.
That's right.
You can't be a good Christian and soak up all the nonsense daytime TV there is. You have to feed your life the correct things,
That's right.
or you ain't gonna get good fruit.
That's
Amen.
true. That's so good.
And typically, the first evidence of poor nutrition is little to no fruit, worthless fruit, and then directly the plant will die. You know, the thing is many plants need many plants need a chilling time to break dormancy. So if you plant a plant, it eventually, if you keep it in a greenhouse, there'll come a time when that plant will quit producing and it has to go into hibernation and be shocked to come back. The thing I got from this is it's a time of stress and strain on the plant. They need to go through a period of time that is not perfect for them to cause them to produce fruit. If you never go through a strain or a trial, you're never going to produce anything.
Thought. I planted some seeds, and I put them under my grow lights, and they came up beautiful. But I did not know that you had to put a kind of a breeze on them to strengthen them. So I went in there one day and every one of these plants were toppled over and dead, and I thought, what in the world? And then I got to reading. They have to have a certain amount of buffeting or stress in order for them to continue to grow. And it's the same way we are. If we just go along and go along and go along, never have to pray for anything, never have to face anything, we're going to be weak. Just like those plants, we're just going to keel over because you got to have a certain amount of stress or
We did the same thing. We
Yeah.
planted some tomato plants, and man, they were the finest looking
Yeah.
tomato plants, real slender and really tall.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't put, we just got a little bitty 4-inch fan that we can set over there
Mm-hmm.
that blows on them from the time that
Uh-huh.
they've started.
See, I didn't know that.
They'll be
That's
nice
right.
and
Yeah.
healthy. We had to learn it
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
And you know, I build a lot of road, and if the tree's growing out in the middle of the woods, and I'm needing to put a road right through the middle of the woods, those trees will come out 90% of the time. They come out easy. But when you got one or two out in the field that you have to take out, you will earn them to get them out of the ground, because same thing. They've stood out there by
Yeah.
themselves. They went through the stress, and they have got some roots under
Uh-huh.
them. The ones that are surrounded,
Yeah.
they don't have to put as much root in. And you know, the thing is when it comes to producing fruit, not all plants produce the same fruit or in the same amount of time. I don't know how many times, I'm sure we've all heard it, I can't pray like so-and-so. I can't sing like so-and-so. I can't speak like so-and-so. I can't. Maybe that wasn't what you were called to. Now, the prayer side of it, I don't know that I'd quite go that far. But not everyone is called
Or gifted.
or gifted to do the exact same
That's
thing.
right. That's right.
If everyone was called to be a speaker, everybody'd be up front.
Yeah.
If everybody was called to be a singer, there'd be no one
So listen.
to be blessed
Yeah.
by the singing.
It's true.
You know, the Bible says we're always to pray continually, but there are those that are actually called to be prayer warriors.
That is true. That is true. But, you know, there's a lot of people, and I meant to pull this up, where it talks about the servants with the different talents. The one that only had one talent, he's like, well, I'm useless, I can't do nothing. He wasn't called to produce 5. He wasn't called to produce 10. He was called to use what he had. And there's a lot of times that because I can't speak like so-and-so, I ain't gonna speak. Because I can't, you know, you name it. One thing that I feel I've been called and blessed to be able to do is to help people out. Not everybody
No.
can do the same thing that I
No.
do. And I realize that, and I would just assume they didn't try.
Yeah.
Because that is where I get blessed, is by being able to help other people. Now I have to use common sense and realize how much I can handle. And the other thing is not all produce in the same amount of time. Some things you plant, and very rapidly they're producing. Other things you plant, and it takes a while to see the fruit on them. There is some trees, such as date palms, that don't produce for 70 to 100
And
years.
sometimes it takes 70 years to get the fruit that you planted.
That's exactly where I was going with that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you think, well, man, that ain't making nothing. But it takes a long time to see the seed that you planted way back finally come into maturity and start
Yeah.
producing.
Yeah.
And there's other people that are saying, well, I'm too old. Well, maybe you just finally hit the spot where you have matured into producing the correct fruit. And there's other trees, such as mangoes and lemons, that they start producing fairly quick, but they're still producing after 100 years. But you can't plant that tree out there and leave it go
No.
and just expect 100
No.
years later to come back and still be picking mangoes and lemons
No,
off of
you
it.
can't.
You have to maintain it. It has to stay healthy and nourished and maintained for it to be any good. And there is a species of tree in Africa, the one they know has been producing fruit for the minimum of 300 years. And I thought, when I read that, I was like, how many speakers, how many preachers have we seen that preached in history and their service is still producing today? You know, you can take the apostles or the disciples if you want to get it way far away from yourself. You can take preachers that we grew up under and things that I heard at 10 years old, 12 years old, still will give you that nudge every once in a while when you're like, you remember what he said?
Yeah.
And the other thing is with fruit, fruit's not all meant to be consumed immediately when it's produced. Some of it is preserved and you use it at a later date. Sometimes when people sow in your life,
Yes. draw
you
on
will
it
go
later.
off of that
Yeah.
years later. You're
Yes,
still
come on.
feeding off the fruit that was
Come on.
given to you years before.
Yes.
I hope that made sense.
Yes.
And the thing with a healthy plant and producing is we need care and pruning. And I know that a lot of you have seen vineyards and gardens that have been pruned and you think, my goodness, they better quit. There ain't gonna be nothing left to grow off of. But that's when that plant, you cut everything away that's not needed. And all that's left is what you need to produce. Because all that frivolous stuff that you pruned off, all it was doing was drawing nutrients away from production.
Yeah, it's true.
And how much do we see in our life? Just go through your house. I'm gonna close my eyes and not look at anybody. But go through your house and see how much is in there of stuff that you have bought and you ain't got no need for it.
6 months.
I told Candace when we got married, we lived in a little single wide trailer. And as years went on and God blessed us and we were able to move into a house that was almost to the T, exactly twice the size of what we had. And we filled that house up out of what we had in that single wide. And I told her, I guess we're going to live here forever because I ain't never going to be able to afford a 5,000 square foot home. And obviously, if we I think you can go get the rest from there. But you know, there's a lot of times we're wasting a lot of nutrient by chasing a lot of things that don't matter. Now, do we all need hobbies? Do we all need things to relax the stress, to enjoy life? God doesn't call you to live a desert life.
No.
You are to enjoy life. However, He doesn't call you to try to hoard everything to yourself and see what all you can accumulate and chase in 5,000 different ways. And when you get done, you ain't got much left to serve God with because you spent it on running in circles. A plant left to itself usually goes down in quality and production. I know a lot of people don't feel like you're required to show up to church. And we all have. I mean, there's been services that I've missed, and there's reasons for it. But on a general basis, a person ought to be here, because left to yourself, your spiritual life will head downhill.
2 points. One, if that tree's not in the right environment, it's going to die anyway. You can't plant a banana tree or a lemon tree out here in Missouri, leave it out all year, expect it to live. It's not going to do it. It gets too cold. It can't stand that. That's the first point. Second point is, if you leave that tree to itself or whatever, parasites are going to come eventually, whether it be bugs or mistletoe. I did not know for a long time that mistletoe is a parasite that attaches to a tree, and they take over like old grapevines. they will eventually choke the life out of the tree that they attach themselves to, and then that tree's not any good either, so you have to keep it tended.
Well, you look in a garden.
You know, Brother Josh, made me think of Koshkanon. Years and years ago, Koshkanon, I read this story about it, was the peach capital of the United States. Had big, awesome peach orchards, and they shipped them on trains and all. But over time, disease got in the peach orchards, and the trees died out, and they never did put them back. One thing, there was not as much call for the peaches, but because they were using a lot of them to make peach brandy. But the disease got in there the same way in a church. When sin comes in, if it's not reckoned with and taken care of, eventually it will kill the church.
I've seen that. And sometimes getting it out requires something getting cut off and people being upset.
Yeah.
I was wondering if I had enough to cover all the Sunday school now. I ain't even gonna get close to get through it. You know, sometimes we look at other people and think, man, I wish I could bear as much fruit as they do. Much work goes in to getting much production. Brother Bill's garden did not produce that without him out there nursing those plants along.
Yeah.
Times when you're like, well, goodness gracious, do you really have to be out there? Yeah, just like Jimmy did. And both them guys could put a garden on. I see.
You also have to talk to those plants.
I have heard that. Brother Jimmy took me down to his little plot he had down there on the side of town. I've grown some big gardens for sure as a kid, but the amount of production he got out of a little bitty old strip of ground was absolutely ridiculous. But it didn't come easy. Another thing with fruit is grafting allows one plant to produce many different types of fruit. You're not only called to just produce love, or just to produce grace, or just to produce whatever you want to name. There is a tree at the Syracuse University that produces 40 different types of fruit. It starts bearing ripe fruit in July all the way until October. How many of us can look at our life and think that we have 10 fruits in our life that we produce consistently? And the thing is grafting allows one plant to produce quickly instead of having to start it from a little bitty seed. Do we allow people to graft onto us and to learn from our experience and take advantage of the depths of our roots? Or do we make people have to learn everything on their own and start out from the beginning? If you have a prize apple tree, you can take one branch off of that and graft it onto another one that doesn't know how to produce that fruit. And by grafting it on, that tree can produce the same fruit that came from the original. We're to be grafted into Christ where we can produce the same fruit that He produced. You could go way into that one, and I ain't even gonna get close to get through it, I don't think. But a plant can reject a grafting attempt.
Yes, it can. Yeah.
The plant has to be willing to accept what you're trying to graft to it. And we have seen people, and we've done it ourselves, I'd say, if we'd be honest, that someone's tried to graft something into our life, and we ain't got the time of day for it. And they can try their best to nurture that in you, and if you're not willing to accept
No,
it,
come on,
that's just my personality.
come on, yeah, come on.
Really?
No,
Are
no.
you called to have that in your personality?
Mm.
And the thing with bearing fruit is, and this is actually kind of a little bit of a downer, fruit doesn't benefit the plant that bears it.
No,
No.
no,
It's actually a drain on the plant. And the more fruit it produces, the more nutrients and water it takes. The more love, patience, temperance, meekness you have in your life, and the more you're going to have to stay in your Bible and on your knees to keep producing that. Because it's going to, trust me, anybody that has been in any sort of position of authority knows on your own you only got so much patience.
That's it.
come on.
And let people keep drawing that patience off you. And you're going to have to figure out a way to grow some new patience
Yeah.
real quick.
Yeah.
But the patience isn't benefiting you real. It does to an extent, but it benefits the people around you. The love in your life doesn't really benefit you. It benefits the people around you.
Yes.
And we like to think that the fruit is for our benefit. We bear fruit for other people, to nurture other people, kind of like we said earlier, to lower other people's blood pressure.
Yeah.
And you know, the thing is with a plant, it takes many different things out of the soil and out of the environment that by themselves are not usable. And it combines them all into something that is nutritional and a lot of times has healing properties for other people. You can go out there and eat a handful of dirt and you're not going to get a bit of good out of it. But you can plant a plant in that dirt and it can draw the nutrients out of that situation and produce fruit that has a healing effect on other people.
Yeah.
Jesus,
Yes.
Jesus.
You know, there's a lot of times that we don't know why we were put in the spot we were, why we had to see what we had to see, why we've had to do what we've had to do. And that situation by itself didn't have any good in it for anybody. But you can take that situation and draw out of it and produce something in your life. Eddie has no idea why his wife was taken from him so suddenly. That situation ain't good for him right now. But he can draw out of that situation. And down the road, somebody else will be in the same spot he's in. And the fruit that he's grown from having to learn how to deal with the loss of his spouse can heal somebody else.
Yes.
And that's a that gives you a new way to look at trials.
Yes.
Is the trial by itself isn't the good part. It's what the nutrients you draw out of that situation and combine it into fruit for other people. And you know, plants can become diseased or unproductive. It can sit in a garden. You can sit on a church pew. You can either get fed and use the nutrients that's around you to produce, or you can just sit there dormant. It's kind of like Brother Dennis said about seeing stuff come into the church and you have to take care of it. There's some plants, if they started out great, they're from great stock. There's no reason why, but they become diseased. And if that's not taken care of, it's just like that peach orchard. You had to go through the whole thing and kill everything there. So, when you first notice a plant is starting to show signs of disease or unproductiveness, you start trying to treat it. And depending on what the plant is, you can go to some ridiculous ends trying to bring that plant back to production. But if it doesn't respond, they're pulled up and replaced. And that plant was sitting in the same garden and the same soil that the one right next to it was. So it isn't always the situation you're in, it's what you do with it. And the thing is, without getting too far into it, and we see it all through nature, when fruit is consumed, it often causes duplication and spread of that particular plant, which causes an ever-increasing area of impact. If you don't keep the raspberry bushes trimmed down in the field, the birds will eat them, and they'll scatter them raspberry bushes everywhere you don't want them.
That's right.
And it starts off with one little old plant,
Yeah.
and that gets broadcast by something that fed off the fruit of that plant.
True.
So when people are consuming the fruit of your life, does it cause duplication? When you show love to somebody else, when you show consideration, grace, kind of like we were talking about grace this morning, does that show up in other people's lives? How is that, or how is that fruit to duplicate if you don't allow others to consume it?
Come on.
And another thing with it is timing. Sometimes we want to see the fruit we want to see when we want to see it.
Yeah.
We are not the gardener. We're the plant. And you know, right here at the end, occasionally, when a plant has been producing heavily, you have to stake it up. Otherwise it will break down under the weight of its own fruit and kill itself.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're called to lean on other people
Yeah.
or to hold other people up,
Yeah.
because the more that is demanded out of your life, the more support you need.
Yeah. Come on.
And I don't think that takes a whole lot of explanation to figure out what I'm saying.
Come on.
If someone's in a position of constantly having to produce, they're using most of their energy to produce, not to take care of themselves. So you have to make sure that you're willing to support that other person and to prop them up, to stake them up, give them something to lean on, take one more thing for them to not have to worry about it. And I've already ran over, so what's that?
You know, Josh, the native branch and pear trees that are decorative, but they don't produce any fruit.
Oh, they go
But
crazy.
they discovered, you know, when you drive around the spring and you see them bloom everywhere, and they will overtake all the good trees
Yes, they
and
will.
kill them out.
Yeah.
You know, and like I say, they're pretty to look at, and it's the same way with sin. A lot of times, it's maybe pretty to look at, but it will kill everything around it.
Real quick, I was wanting to get to all these, and there's no way I could.
Just stick with it, son.
All right,
Just share what you got.
John 15, 1 through 5. The only way we can bear good fruit is by abiding in Him. If I remember correctly, that is the verse on, He is the vine and we are the branches. We cannot expect to peel ourselves off the vine and run off and do our own thing and still have all kinds of good fruit.
No,
That's
yeah.
right.
In John 15, 8, God is actually glorified by our good fruit.
Yes, he is.
It's not just for the benefit of others, it's also to glorify Him.
Yes.
People see how you handle a situation, how you draw those nutrients from a situation that ain't good, combine it all together, and they wonder how in the world you did that.
Yeah. Come on.
It's through God.
Yes.
The next one is, I'm going to turn to this one real quick. Psalms 1:1-3. And I always think I'm going to have time to get all these worked in, and one of these days I'll realize to quit quicker. Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of the sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord. And in his law doth he meditate day and night. And he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. And his leaf shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper.
Yes.
And that just kind of, all that just kind of condensed everything together. I did want to get to that one. We cannot expect to be blessed when we're asking worldly people their advice on situations in our life.
Not spiritual, that's right.
We can't expect to be blessed when we're running around doing the same thing all the sinners are doing, standing in the way of the sinners. I know we have to have contact with them, and I'm not saying that we should be isolationists, but we're not to be out there. It says, standeth in the way of the sinners. You ain't supposed to be out there just hanging out, just for hanging out's sake. Nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. How many people have you seen, or occasionally done ourselves, you sitting back there listening to somebody speak and think, well, golly, if he can't do no better than that. Or, why in the world did they do that? Well, if I'd have been in that situation, I'd have. Oh, really?
Come on.
You might want to think about it, because you may be put there to
Yeah,
just see if
come
you
on,
will
that's
respond
right.
the way you think you will.
Yes.
But if you want to prosper, delight in the law of the Lord.
Yes.
And don't just delight in it, live in it day and night. The plant cannot live by leaving it out hang on a clothesline, and then at night go put it in the ground for 3 hours and then pull it back up and hang it. It has to live in that all the time,
Yes.
otherwise. And if you do walk in the law, or delight in his law, and live in it day and night, you'll be like the tree planted by the rivers of water. And as everybody knows, I log for a living, and every once in a while we go down into the river bottoms. And up on that hill, timber might be 60 feet tall, or 50, 60 feet of usable timber. We've got down in the river bottoms and cut timber that's 90-some feet of usable timber, because it's unlimited water, unlimited nutrition. It's just growing for the sky. Growth rings as wide as your thumb instead of just little bitty old tiny ones you can hardly see. And there again, it goes to whatever you planted yourself in. And it'll bring forth fruit in its season. It ain't my job to tell you when you're supposed to be producing fruit. However, I will know what type of tree you are by what's hanging on your branches.
Come on, that's true.
Good.
Good word.